6 platoons of the Karnataka State Reserve Police and 6 quick response teams are also stationed for this road show. So this is what I see right now. Back-to-back updates coming in Republic TV as Prime Minister Modi arrives in Udupi, now is holding a road show. Abhishek is joining us live on the phone line. Abhishek, take our viewers through pictures coming in. PM Modi is visiting Karnataka and Goa, but right now he's holding a road show in Udupi. He's going to be participating in multiple programs.
Shivangi, the road show in Udupi is set to begin at around 11:35 in the morning, and it will be ending in Udupi Matha at around 12. Lakhs of people have already assembled to witness of Modi, Pradhan Mantri Modi, who will be en route to the Krishna Matha. And as of now, the SPG have taken over all the roads in the entire Udupi, and people are very eager to see what Modi is about to announce and have a conversation with the general people who are present there. And there are various other cultural programs which have already been organized by the temple management. Yakshagana, Holi Kunita program have been organized, and also there will be a Yakshagana which depicts the kidnapping of Geeta Matha in the which is a historic content in the Hindu mythology. And also we have been told that at least 3,000 personnel of the security have been deployed for this road show. And it is also significant because Modi ji will be participating in a religious event, and this will obviously hold a major turnout because it was just a couple of days where Modi flagged off the Hindutva flag in Ayodhya, and after which he is in Udupi for religious purpose. Saffron flags and buntings have already been set up in the entire Udupi, where Modi will be moving in rally, and also the procession will be for about 20 minutes is what we have been told. So we are waiting for much more updates with respect to the security concerns. At least 10 super SPs or the superintendents of police have been deployed, 27 deputy SPs and 49 inspectors, 127 sub-inspectors and 232 assistant sub-inspectors have been deployed. So quick response team and KSRP battalions have also been deployed, and various other bomb detection teams, dog squads have already been deployed. So the primary importance has been given to the security concern, and also various other cultural programs will be organized so that Modi ji will witness the entire cultural event, which is directly related to the Udupi Krishna temple. With respect to the Krishna temple, it was founded by Madhavacharya at least 800 years ago. It holds a major importance in the history of Karnataka. So we will have to see how this continues, because there will be Geeta Parayana. That means 1 lakh voices chanting the Bhagavad Gita in unison in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he will be inaugurating the Suvarna Tirtha Mantapa during his visit to Udupi. So these are some of the programs in which he will be participating. He will initially be giving his floral tributes to poet Kanakadasa, and then he will unveil the golden covering placed over the Kanakana Kindi. So this is the information what we have received from the Udupi temple management as of now, and obviously any person who has the highest respect in the country or in the state will be received in a traditional honor which is named as Purna Kumbha Swagata. Pradhani Narendra Modi will be receiving the same, after which he will continue for the darshan of Lord Sri Krishna, and various other deities in the Udupi temple will be Modi ji will be present there to also get the darshan of Mukhya Prana, Devaru and Suvarna Paduke. So these are some of the informations what we have received as of now. And from the Union Cabinet, Prahlad Joshi, the Union Minister, and Governor Tawarchand Gehlot, and we are also expecting the State Minister Bhairati Suresh to be present there. We have also been told that Dharmastala's Dharmadhikari Virendra Hegde will be present there to deliver the welcome address and welcome all the creators of Ashta mutts is what we have been informed as of now. So we will have to see how the program continues, how what the speech might the Prime Minister Modi deliver there. While he was speaking in Ayodhya, he had spoken about the Hindutva, the importance of Hindutva and a Hindu Rashtra. So will he be delivering any speech of the same kind? Will there be any prominence to Udupi temple? Will he be announcing any betterment or any benefit to the Udupi Matha? And also will he be talking about Hinduism? Some of the key aspects for what we will have to wait for some more time, Shivangi.
That's right, Abhishek. Abhishek, also just staying with these pictures coming in. Prime Minister Modi is waving to everyone who has gathered there with much anticipation. And we have seen, Abhishek, that whenever he does road shows anywhere in the country, he gets a very, very warm welcome like he's getting right now.
Yes, indeed. Initially, when Prime Minister Modi decided that he will be present in Udupi, the BJP had decided not to conduct the road show, keeping the security arrangements in point of view. However, it was after Modi's office or the Prime Minister's office confirmed that they can hold a rally or a march for about 20 minutes, because every single person who knows Modi, who actually love Modi, wants to witness him in their part of the area or their part of the world. And also this scenario or this situation where we are witnessing Prime Minister Modi going towards the Udupi Krishna temple, waving his hands as thousands of people who are assembled in the sides of the streets to have a look at Modi, to catch a glimpse of Modi, are indeed happy to witness Modi in their town, in their motherland, in their location. And they're also happy that Modi is visiting Udupi's Sri Krishna Matha, which holds an importance in the history of not only Karnataka but the entire India. At least 800 to 1,000 years old temple, which also invites lots of other community people to show that the Mutt not only respects the belief of Hindus but also it believes in various other castes, creeds and sects as well. So this is one such Mutt where the community, the people from other community are invited to have fruits and vegetables or any sorts of food with the seers themselves. So in this month, Prime Minister Modi will be present, and also for this procession, at least 6,000 personnel have been deployed, which also includes the KSRP, Karnataka State Reserve Police, bomb squads, experts from drone team, and also we have been told that various other CCTVs have been installed. The location have been taken over by the special protection group. Not a single inch or not a single centimeter out of the SPG's vision. So the entire 20-minute rally will be orchestrated as per the plans of SPG. The entire program has been decided. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi will be present there along with the CS of the Udupi Mutt to explain the importance of the entire temple, the history of the temple, the importance of visiting this temple. Various other leaders also will be present from BJP to give their pranams or to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi to their part of the constituency. Not only that, Shivangi, we shouldn't forget the fact when Prime Minister Modi was present in Ayodhya along with the CM Yogi Adityanath in Ayodhya a couple of days ago, he mentioned the importance of the saffron words which had been flagged above the Ram Lalla. Just a couple of days after he was in the Sri Rama Janmabhoomi, he is visiting to Udupi, which is another avatar of Ram. It is Krishna's Mutt, which he is visiting now. So at around 12:05 in the noon, the designated plan will begin. The designated darshan of Sri Krishna will begin. Various other special pujas have already been decided upon now. They will be started as soon as Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches the temple. So we will have to go through the visuals. We will also have to see how Modi will be invited, welcomed by the seers of the temple. What are the seers willing to talk to Prime Minister Modi? Will there be exchange of thoughts? Will the seers of Udupi congratulate Prime Minister Modi on Ayodhya's benchmark decision? There are various other things and various other points of views for Prime Minister Modi visiting Udupi. But obviously, we will have to wait for the time to unfold what happens in the next couple of minutes. Shivangi.
Yes, Abhishek. Well, thank you for getting us all those details. I'll be coming back to you for more as the Prime Minister is holding a roadshow in Udupi. Okay, let's move ahead, viewers. Getting some more breaking updates coming in. Another arrest in the TTD ghee adulteration case. And SIT arrest another key figure in the TTD's ghee adulteration issue case. SVR Subramaniam, once the general manager of the purchase department and now an executive engineer, was arrested by the SIT. SIT members escorted Subramaniam to the Anti-Corruption Bureau Court in Ennore, and a judicial remand until December 10th is granted with this arrest. The total number of detentions in the Laddu probe has come to 10 now. Big update coming in. We'll try to go across to Shaurya. There has been this probe into the Laddu case, and I want to go across to my colleague Shaurya. Shaurya, just take our viewers to latest coming in. In the ghee adulteration and Laddu case, we have seen that the probe has been going on for quite a while now, and now we see one more arrest has been made. Yes, Shaurya, can you hear me? All right, we'll go to Shaurya in a short while from now, but another arrest in the TTD ghee case, SIT arrest, another key figure in the TTD Laddu case, and the latest coming in is that Subramaniam has now been arrested. Now, Subramaniam is a general manager of the purchase department and now an executive engineer, was arrested by the SIT. SIT members escorted Subramaniam to the Anti-Corruption Bureau Court. Amid reports of infighting in the Congress government in Karnataka, the state's deputy CM, DK Shivakumar, shared a cryptic post on his X handle. Shivakumar posted a picture message that read, "Word is power, world power." Now, the biggest force in the world was to keep one's word, be it a judge, president, or anyone else, including myself. Everyone has to walk the talk. World power is world power. The message further read. The remarks come amid rumors about a possible change in the chief ministership. Take a look.
Potholes, lack of funds, crumbling infrastructure, corruption. Of the issues that should have dominated the discourse in Karnataka, instead, two leaders are fighting for the chief minister's chair, with this man, the deputy chief minister, adamant on getting the top post.
ನಾನೇನು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ಚೀಫ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತಲೂ ನಾನು ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ 5-6 ಜನದ ಗುಟ್ಟಿನ ವಿಚಾರ. ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನು ಬಹಿರಂಗ ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು. ನಾನು ನಂಬಿರೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಆತ್ಮಸಾಕ್ಷಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಆತ್ಮಸಾಕ್ಷಿಲಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದು.
The Deputy CM put out this cryptic post. It translates to the biggest strength in the world is keeping up one's word, a reference perhaps to what his camp says is to give him the post after 2.5 years.
I myself and CM we both will discuss.
Yes, sir.
And we'll go. If they have called, they will go.
The Chief Minister Siddharamaiah is fighting back, unwilling to budge, indicating that he is here for the full term.
See, my clarity is whatever decision taken by the High Command, I will follow it. Whenever they call me, I will go.
ಈಗಂತೂ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗಂತೂ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ವರ್ಕರ್ ಆಗಿ MLA ಆಗಿ ಈಗ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳನ್ನು ಬದಲಾಯಿಸೋ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಅಂತೂ ನನಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ದೂರಿಲ್ಲ, ಹಗರಣ ಅಂತ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಆಡಳಿತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, MLAಗಳು ಅವ್ರ ಪರವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
The Congress is split down the middle in Karnataka, with Chief Minister Siddharamaiah enjoying the support of most of the MLAs.
ನಾನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ CM ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆದಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ ಇತ್ಯರ್ಥ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊಂದಲ ಬಗೆಹರಲ್ಲ. ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ನಾವು ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
In the battle for the throne, even the seers have taken sides, Nirmalanda Swamiji, one of the prominent seer from the Vokaliga community, has openly backed DK Shivakumar.
ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಡಿ ಕೆ ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಸದ್ಭಕ್ತರೇನೆ, ಆದರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಭರವಸೆ ಇದೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಆಗದಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋದಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೈಸಿಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆದಾಗ ಭೇಟಿ ಆಗ್ಬೋದೇನೋ, ಆದರೆ ಭಕ್ತ ವರ್ಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಒಂದು ಕೂಗಿದೆ.
And other seers are taking objection, asking for religious bodies to stay out.
ಈ ವಿಷಯದಾಗೆ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು ಮಧ್ಯಪ್ರವೇಶ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸೂಕ್ತ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಅವರು ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಆ ಪಕ್ಷದ ನಾಯಕರು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ತಗೊಂಡು ಸೂಕ್ತವಾದಂಥ ತೀರ್ಮಾನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಪಕ್ಷದ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಮಧ್ಯಪ್ರವೇಶ ಮಾಡಿ ಗೊಂದಲ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರಿಗೂ ಸೂಕ್ತ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಯಸ್ತೀವಿ.
Karnataka has seen many governments fall in such situation. The irony is on the back of the Bihar drubbing, Rahul Gandhi is nowhere to be seen to put out the fire.
Moving on, viewers, there's a big update in the Raisen rape case investigation. Salman, accused of raping an innocent girl, has been injured in a brief encounter. The encounter took place in Kiratnagar near Bhojpuri while being transported from Gandhinagar. The police vehicle tire was punctured near the area. The accused then attempted to escape while fleeing. The accused fired at the police with a police gun, and during the counterfire, the police shot the accused in the leg. He is currently undergoing treatment at the government hospital in Bhopal.
अब मैं आपको बताता हूं कि ये जो स्कॉर्पियो गाड़ी जो है वो चूंकि सुनील सिंह चला रहे थे, सस्पेक्टर हैं। आप बताइए, ये गाड़ी आप चला रहे थे, आरोपी इसी में था?
हाँ, मैं ही गाड़ी चला रहा था। ये गाड़ी मेरी है, मैं ही चला रहा था, क्योंकि सभी वाहन उसको ढूंढने के लिए और पूरी पुलिस लगी हुई थी। हम उसको लेकर के इसी गाड़ी से रायसेन के लिए जा रहे थे, थाने के लिए, गोहरगंज के लिए। साथ में एक बैकअप में और दूसरी गाड़ी चल रही थी और भी स्टाफ था। गाड़ी अचानक से पंचर हुई तो देखने के लिए मैं भी उतरा, देखा कील लगी हुई थी गाड़ी में। तो फिर बताया हमने कि इसको शिफ्ट करना पड़ेगा। शिफ्ट करने के लिए जैसे ही श्यामराज उसको लेकर के बाहर निकले हैं, वैसे ही श्यामराज की जो सब इंस्पेक्टर श्यामराज हैं, उनकी पिस्टल को उसने छीन लिया और उनके ऊपर उसने तानने की कोशिश करी, जिसमें उसमें श्यामराज ने अपने आप को बचाते हुए और उसने 2 फायर भी किए और उसने भागने का प्रयास किया। तो पीछे से जो और फोर्स था, उसमें से एक अधिकारी थे, उन्होंने फिर उसमें फिर एनकाउंटर।
तो आपको ऐसा आशंका थी क्या कि वो ये कर सकता है, फायरिंग पुलिस की पिस्टल छीन?
उसने तो किया। श्यामराज की पिस्टल को उसने छीन करके और उन पर फायर करने की कोशिश करके भागने का प्रयास किया, जिस दौरान फिर उसे
पुलिस का भी कोई जवान इंजर्ड है क्या?
नहीं, इंजर्ड नहीं है, थोड़ी चोट है श्यामराज को, तो वो हॉस्पिटल के लिए।
पुलिस को अभिरक्षा में लिया गया, पुलिस द्वारा इसको अभिरक्षा में लिया गया था और गोहरगंज ले जाया जा रहा था। इस दौरान अचानक हमारी गाड़ी का जो है वो गाड़ी की जो है वो पंचर हो गई थी और हमारे जो सब इंस्पेक्टर हैं उनकी जो गन छीन के ये भागने लगा और उन पर फायरिंग की। इसी बीच बचाव में इस पर फायरिंग किया गया पुलिस अधिकारियों द्वारा और ये घायल हो गया है। जैसे भी डॉक्टर्स बोलेंगे उसके अकॉर्डिंग कार्रवाई की जाएगी। पुलिस को अभिरक्षा में लिया गया, पुलिस द्वारा इसको अभिरक्षा में लिया गया था और गोहरगंज ले जाया जा रहा था। इस दौरान अचानक हमारी गाड़ी का जो है वो गाड़ी की जो है वो पंचर हो गई थी।
And we will be inaugurating this day of dialogue and discovery with our very special guest. The first Our Talk that features one of India's most dynamic policy visionaries, a civil servant whose leadership has propelled landmark national missions like Make in India, Startup India, and Ease of Doing Business. A believer in the power of innovation and enterprise, he has championed India's transition into a globally competitive and self-reliant economy. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Amitabh Kant, G20 Sherpa and former CEO of Niti Aayog, a visionary reformer who continues to inspire a new era of public policy leadership. Before we invite him on stage, let's take a look at the AV.
He has been at the heart of India's reform story, a civil servant who turned policy.
Shares his insights on Atmanirbharta, antidote to turmoil.
So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me first say what a delight it is to visit this campus. I've been to the CNN, BBC and the Al Jazeera campuses, and this one is at least 1,000 times better than all of them. So this is by far the finest campus of any news channel, and the newsroom is absolutely world class. I don't think there's a better newsroom than this anywhere in the world. So this demonstrates what the spirit of excellence, what great passion and commitment can do, and I'm truly delighted to be here, Arnav. So my compliments to you and your very dynamic, energetic, and vibrant team, which has built this institution with love and passion. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take you back to 2014. At that point of time, I was Secretary, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. India was facing the twin balance sheet problem. There were huge debts on the balance sheet of corporates, and there were non-performing assets on the bank side. Indian economy was then termed as one of the fragile fives of the world. In the last decade, we've moved from fragile five to the top four. And in a year and a half, we'll be the top 3 economies of the world. During this period, I've been associated personally with the Ease of Doing initiative. And at that point of time, India was ranked 144th in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business. And the Prime Minister tasked me to eliminate a lot of rules, regulation, procedures. India While the World Bank was doing the ranking, India jumped up in 2 years, 79 positions in the World Bank ease of doing business. But more than that, it's the only country in the world which has eliminated about close to 1,800 laws. It's fully digitized its economy. But this is a work in progress. Every day we do keep doing innovative things, and as the Prime Minister yesterday announced, that the nuclear sector, which has been a monopoly of the public sector, will be opened up for the private sector. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've opened up the space sector, we've opened up the geospatial sector, we've opened up the drone sector, and now we are opening up the nuclear sector for private sector participation. The space sector, the geospatial sector, the drone sector have led to almost over 3,500 new startups emerging in these areas and accelerating the pace of growth of Indian economy. And with nuclear sector opening up, you will see the emergence of India as a champion of small modular reactors. So you will see a large number of young companies emerging in this area of nuclear growth. And to my mind, one of the greatest hallmark of the Indian economy in the last decade is that it's built the spirit of free enterprise. That it's not the government will act as a catalyst, as a facilitator, but the private sector will be the driver of growth. And the Indian private sector and the Indian startup movement will really be the key torch bearer of this growth. And in the long run, if India is to grow on a sustained basis from a $4 trillion to a $30+ trillion economy, the private sector of India and the young startups of India and our ability to create young entrepreneurs will be the key to India's growth story. And therefore, my belief that this challenge of $4 trillion to a $30+ trillion economy, we should clearly comprehend this. It means that your GDP has to grow 9 times, your per capita income has to grow 8 times, your manufacturing has to grow 16 times. And since there's a young audience here, it's important to tell you that very few countries in the world have been able to do this. It was done by Japan post-World War II, it was done later by Korea, and in recent time, China has grown at scorching pace of growth. Only 3 countries in the world, all other countries of the world were caught in the middle income trap. 108 countries of the world are caught in the middle income trap. So the Prime Minister's bet on India becoming Viksit Bharat is a very ambitious, a very audacious task. And for India to be able to do this, you need free enterprise to grow and prosper. When these 3 countries were growing, it was a different world. It was a period of political stability across the world. New institutions like UN, Security Council, World Trade Organizations were there. They ensured stability in the growth of these countries in the world. What we are seeing is a different world. We are seeing geopolitical crisis, you're seeing conflict, you're seeing wars, you're seeing the breakdown of global supply chains. You're seeing a war in the heart of Europe for 4 years. You saw a war in the Middle East. You've seen over 180,000 people dying in Russia-Ukraine war. And you're seeing over 350,000 people dying in the Middle East. It's a different world. When Japan was growing, Korea was growing, China was growing, there was a post-World War II era. So first and foremost, we must understand that the period of stability across the world has come to an end. The period of stability has come to an end. There's a geopolitical conflict and tension on. The second is that when these three countries were growing, Japan, Korea, China were growing, the global supply chains were growing and expanding. It was possible to import, do value addition, and re-export. There was free trade. America was driving free trade. Europe was driving free trade. And therefore they said, we'll manufacture in China, we'll import, we'll put it together, we'll do value addition. Value will be made in the United States, but hard manufacturing will be done in China. But global value chain was their approach. That has broken down completely, and you're seeing protectionism and tariff at the heart of policies across the world. Trump is imposing tariffs, he's pushing for protectionism, Xi Jinping is responding with counter tariffs, and then, therefore, across the world, you're seeing a period of breakdown of global value chain with protectionism and tariff at the heart of it. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that in the midst of these two global crises, there is a third force. And we are all living in an era when the world is seeing the biggest rise in productivity and growth. And that is because of data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. We're seeing disruption which will enable us to solve problems which the world could never solve earlier. You can now improve learning outcomes, health outcomes, nutritional standards at a much more rapid pace because of the emergence of artificial intelligence. Today, vast amount of data is backed by huge amount of very sophisticated software, and huge computing power, which was not available earlier, enables you to do artificial intelligence at a scale and size which was unparalleled. And therefore, we are very fortunate to be living in an era which will see the rise of productivity which the world has never seen before. And therefore, to my mind, this is a great opportunity for India. And this is an opportunity to technologically pole vault. So what has India done to move from fragile 5 to top 4? First, that you want to be in the global spot, you want to be a leader. As the Prime Minister said, you have to constantly reform. You have to constantly reform like we did with the GST, the goods and services tax across the country. No other country has that, but we have one tax across the economy and we constantly refine it, like we've done recently. We brought in the insolvency bankruptcy code because India had socialism which prohibited entry, and you could not exit capitalism without exit. But what India has done with insolvency and bankruptcy code is to bring a lot of financial discipline. And since you're all here in this part of Noida, you could see a number of uncompleted buildings because of real estate, where we've brought in the Real Estate Regulation Act, which has brought discipline. But the corporate tax rate was lowered 2 years back to bring it on par with the world's best regime. And we focused on ease of doing business in a very big way. So structural reforms. But the most important thing for India has been that it digitized its economy, and 1.5 billion people in India have a digital identity. It enabled young startups to do fast payments. Between 2015 and 2017, we opened 550 million bank accounts. Every second bank account was opened in India. We then seeded it with Aadhaar and mobile number. And then it enabled all these young startups to do fast payments. India is the only country where PhonePe competes with Google Pay and Paytm competes with Amazon Pay. We built an alternative model of open source, open API, globally interoperable model. It's very different from the western part of the world, where all of you, when you get into Meta or you get onto Google or you get onto Amazon, your data is owned by them. Your data is owned by them. And that data is then analyzed by them. They build new products and sell it back to you at high prices. So your data is owned by them. But in India, the digital empowerment protection architecture ensures that your data is owned by you. The model cannot memorize your data. And that is why during India's G20, it was accepted that this is the model for the rest of the world and the global south should emulate what India has done. So ladies and gentlemen, India built up an alternative model where we build the digital public interest layer, but we allowed private sector to innovate and compete. And therefore, we did fast payments, and today we do 50% of the fast payments in the world. China is next with 20%. But then we had a number of young startups, Mobicwick, Pine Lab, etc., who started looking at the history of fast payments and provided credit. And then you had another set of startups, Zerodha, Grow Up Stock, who took stock market to tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural areas. And then you had another set of startups like GoDigit and Echo, who took insurance to tier 3 and rural areas. So India does identity, credit, fast payment, stock market, credit, all within 30 seconds to 1 minute on the back of mobile. No other country does this. No other country does this, and that is why India leapfrogged, and during COVID period, we did 2.2 billion COVID vaccination without any paperwork. My daughter, who was living in San Francisco, was only doing paperwork. I haven't used my credit card for over 4 years now. I've never been to an ATM machine. The only time I used it when I went to visit her to hire a Uber vehicle. So in many of these areas, India has really pole vaulted digitally. And as the Bank of International Settlements said, India achieved in 7 years what it would have taken India 50 years to achieve. 7 years what it would have taken India 50 years to achieve. And we started, the cost of acquisition of a customer had fallen from what the World Bank says from $30 to 15 cents. From $30 to 15 cents, the cost of acquisition of a customer had fallen, and India became a more productive country in many, many ways. The third thing that has happened in India is that we built up huge infrastructure in the last decade. We've built up over 40 million houses, which is more than the population of Australia. We should try and understand and comprehend this. We do not understand this, that we've actually built a complete Australia within India. We've provided toilets to over 130 million citizens of India, which is more than the population of Germany. And we've provided piped water connection to 253 million Indians, which is more than the population of Brazil. But more important, we provided 120 million women of India cooking gas connection, LPG. They used to spoil their life by burning on firewood. So we've transformed the lives of women in rural India by giving LPG connection. And therefore, what you see is the size and scale of India, of what India has done in infrastructure. We've built over 88,000 kilometers of roads, and we've moved our capex spend from less than 1% to close to 4% of our GDP. So infrastructure story is the third one, and I would say the fourth one is really that India has done it in a sustainable manner. So India has gone green. We built up 256 gigawatt of renewable energy at very low price points. Our aim is to become a champion of green hydrogen. Today we import 180 billion worth of fossil fuel. Our aim is that by the time we become 100, we should be the biggest exporter of green hydrogen at $1 per kilogram and export it to the rest of the world in its liquid form, ammonia. And therefore, the ambition of India is that it should grow and develop in a sustainable manner, because 50% of India is still to be built. 50% of India is still to be built. Arnab Goswami will be creating many more studios like this across India in the days to come. Because if 500 million Indians have to move to urban areas, means India will be creating 2 Americas, India will be creating 1 Chicago every 5 years. That's the way the people will move. But we have to do it in a manner that we do it sustainably, with cycling, walking, with public transportation, with better quality of air, and improve the livelihood of citizens in India. So, ladies and gentlemen, our ability to do it in a sustainable manner is also dependent on our population, because when Bill Gates says that when you move from fossil fuel to clean energy, you pay 35% extra. But India has demonstrated that using its size and scale, when we bought 500 million LED bulbs, we were able to bring down the price of LED bulb to 15% of their original price. When we did the first tender for electric buses, 7,000 buses, we brought it on par with fossil fuel buses. The next tender of 10,000 buses will bring it 15% lower than fossil fuel buses. And the Prime Minister's vision is that the third tender should be 30,000 buses and the fourth tender for 100,000 buses. So when you do 100,000 buses, you'll make India the center for global manufacturing for electric vehicles. So we are really pushing for Make in India and cutting-edge technology. We are pushing it in a sustainable manner. And the fifth is that we are pushing for cutting-edge technology through the artificial intelligence mission, because data exists in India. Today, what is happening is that Indian data is being used by ChatGPT, by Gemini, and they are taking your data free of cost. They are developing products and they'll sell it, the same data, to you at very high prices tomorrow. They will sell you the end product at high prices. Never allow that. Build your own product. And therefore, the government has pushed for India to build its own sovereign models, sovereign large language models. If you don't build it, you will lose your history, your civilization. That will be new colonization in a stealth form. And therefore, when we talk about globalization, you must understand that you can't afford to lose your history, your culture, your civilization. You have to use your data to build your large language models, and that is why India government has supported 10 young startups. We are providing computing power at almost 40% the price to our researchers and startups. We have opened up government data bank through AI Kosh to them. And our objective is that once these large language models are built, you build applications on top of them, and you Indians then use their data on these large language models. We've also launched the AI quantum computing mission. We've launched the semiconductor mission, by which, because tomorrow's world will be fought by chips, all studios, all electric vehicles, all drones, all planes, all wars will be fought on chips. And therefore, the country for the first time has pushed for the manufacturing of 10 large companies to do chip manufacturing in India. India was a center for design manufacturing, but now we'll be doing large-scale chip manufacturing in India. So, ladies and gentlemen, using technology to leapfrog will be very, very critical in the days to come. And how we pole vault using technology across quantum, across AI, across green hydrogen, all this will be critical for India. But as I said, we are confronted by challenges in the breakdown of supply chains and the breakdown of political stability. Those are international challenges. We also have domestic challenges. We've largely grown on the back of services. We need to give a major push to manufacturing, because that will create jobs. We need to urbanize in a very sustainable manner. We need to ensure that the eastern part of India, which is the most populous part of India, grows rapidly. We also need to ensure that we transform the physical quality of life index and the human development index. Ladies and gentlemen, therefore, for all this, To my mind, Atmanirbharta is critical. And Atmanirbharta is not about protectionism. It's about becoming the most competitive nation in the world, using the size and scale of your population to become the most competitive nation in the world. All these countries, you look at the history of the United States in the 19th century, you look at the history of Japan, you look at the history of China. All these countries actually practiced hardcore protectionism when they were growing and expanding. They talk about free trade now, but they were all protectionists when they were growing and expanding. Today, in today's world, when they've grown and become highly developed, they're talking about free world. But they were all protectionists. Even today, it's impossible for India to export to China. We are a major importer of goods from China, but it's impossible to export. All non-tariff barriers. You try putting up an industry in Japan, it's impossible. You look at America, what it is doing with tariffs on India. All these countries are following all hypocrisy and double standards across the world. All hypocrisy, they're all basically, we have to be nationalist. We have to pursue growth with one single-minded vision. One single-minded clarity with one single-minded goal, and that is making India a $30+ trillion economy. And this requires us, to my mind, have the clarity that this is going to be India's decade, but this is also going to be India's century. And if this is going to be India's century, and I'm a great optimist that this is going to be India's century because of young demographics. 90% of the people sitting in this room are young. India is the only country where the average age of population is 29, even when we become 100, the average age will be 35. United States is aging, Europe is aging, China is aging, Japan is aged, but India will still be young. And rarely has a country not created wealth when it is young. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, there's no country in the world which is making 30 kilometers of roads and 12 kilometers of railway line every day when it is growing. There's no country in the world which is making 9 metros every day. And there's no country in the world which has expanded its solar energy 31x in the last 7 years. And there's no country in the world which does 50% of the fast payments by mobile. So ladies and gentlemen, my belief is that this is going to be India's decade and India's century, but we have to be very clear that we have to use our size and scale and our young population to drive India's growth and become a leader. And that will require Atmanirbharta in a very big way. And Atmanirbharta, to my mind, is not about protectionism. It's about making India the most competitive economy. This will require us to break down rules, regulation, procedures, the socialist mindset, which we've built over the years. We'll have to allow free enterprise to grow. We'll have to have a clear vision that India will have to grow on the back of free enterprise with government acting as a facilitator and catalyst, and we'll have to become a leading exporter because without exports, India will not be able to grow, and we'll have to ensure that India's physical quality of life index improves across the world. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is a rare moment in history. Rarely does a country get a moment when you have political stability over a long period of time. Rarely does a country get a moment when it has young population. Rarely does a country get a government which is very in favor of breaking rules and regulation. Rarely does a country get a moment when the country wants reforms to grow and progress. All these factors are combining. All these factors are converging, they are integrating together for making India Atmanirbhar, but more than that, they are pushing India towards a Viksit Bharat of 2047. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khan, and I would like to announce that our
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ 8 मिनट में तैयार। क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला।
So in the past we would see most of the terrorists who would get arrested, they would be like the people who would be working at a very low level. But today we have seen the white collar suspect.
कश्मीर घाटी में डॉक्टर्स एक बहुत अल्टीमेट ड्रीम होता है वहां के लड़के लड़कियों का। उस बनने के बावजूद अगर आप रेडिकलाइज होकर अपने ही देशवासियों को मारने के लिए और अपने देश को तोड़ने के लिए तैयार
Namaskar. Good afternoon. Well, first of all, I repeat the compliments in terms of this is my first visit to the campus, and it's very modern, and as it should be. In fact, in many ways, watching Republic is pretty much like pathway to Viksit Bharat 2047. Very much, the experiences that this group is going to witness over the next few decades is completely aligned with what we are aspiring for the nation as a whole. So my compliments to the Republic team and thank you for this opportunity. Well, let me first start by, I had the great privilege to listen to Amitabh's opening lecture. I will build on that. Of course, 2014, if you look at any kind of data, there have been structural breaks from 2014. So I think first it's important to recognize that we are on a pathway to 2047, but 2014 has marked a shift. That shift is not just in terms of looking at structural breaks in one or two indicators, which is why as an economist, I term it as an epoch. And I'm going to show and talk to you about why 2014 onwards, the pathway, in terms of not just growth, real growth, but in terms of the outcomes that growth is meant to achieve, has happened across India. First of all, before 2014, if you visited Delhi, you would often hear the phrase, India has missed the manufacturing bus. It is a very common phrase that people would repeat. And for those of us who were watching and working on India's development, it would often strike as being very odd that how can a country of 1.4 billion want to make a transition and become a model of development by going from agriculture to services, by completely overlooking what is the bedrock of livelihoods and job creation. But such was the nature of policy making. And the reason I'm telling you this part of the story is what does policy making then entail? It's not just about smart policies. You also have to socialize these, because a very large segment of people advising as experts are also myopic and tend to have a very narrow vision of this massive dynamic economy. India should be viewed as 28 vibrant state economies. Okay? Labor laws, yes, there are many things we are doing at the center. eventually the penny drops at the state level. Data has already shown that states which have proactively tried to reform have always availed and taken advantage of big trade agreements that India enters. So when market opportunities open, who can really benefit? Not everybody. It's the states which are eventually going to do proper and committed implementation of the policies that we are trying to push from Delhi. So state level also matters a great deal. If you look at the world today, it's a very different world than it was even in 2014, right? Increased amount of protectionism. Of course, the euphemism from economic point of view, we call it industrial policy, which is a very nice, fancy sounding term, but it basically means the governments are going to spend big money to get jobs back, manufacturing back, right? And government after government in the OECD nations are in fact doing exactly that. If you look at the nature of trade protection, in fact, if you look at the top 10 economies of the world and see what has happened in the last 10 years, we are the least protectionist. We have brought in less than 2,000 trade distortionary policies. You know how many the US has brought in? Close to 10,000. You know how many China has brought in? Do you know? Close to 8,000. So India is really very small if you look at just the number of protection or trying to protect certain kinds of livelihoods. But of course, the nature of those protections that these large economies are doing are in the form of non-tariff barriers, which means enormous amounts of subsidies for export promotion or industrial growth, etc. Right? So the nature of it. So when you look at the data, try to go into the details of some of this. The countries that have grown ahead of us, when many people tell us, if East Asia did it, India should also try and emulate the same. Well, India is not a small economy. That's number one. And also understand that none of these East Asian countries, whether it is Japan or South Korea, they haven't done it with this degree of freedom. And I mean maintaining sovereignty. There always has been erosion of sovereignty because technology transfer has meant that these nations have aligned themselves with large global powers. That is the nature of technology transfer. So please recognize what we are trying to do today in India is being fiercely independent, not wanting to be part of one bloc or the other. From a per capita income where we have just come out of poverty, we are a low middle income country, we are trying to do this leapfrog. We are well on our path to doing that. But of course, 7% growth cannot be normalized. We are aspiring for double digit. That is why you will see continuous reforms. That is our job, to continuously keep making things simpler, which means reducing the cost of doing business. So what has changed after 2014? If I just look at impact of growth, let's say poverty numbers, because eventually in a democracy, growth cannot be exclusive in nature. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable from a society perspective. So growth has to percolate down to household welfare, meaning quality of life of average citizens. Poverty matters a great deal. Now, different forms of poverty has existed. No, as you get more affluent, your definition of poverty also gets changed. It relaxes. You put more things into it. Initially, poverty was only linked to destitution. If you were hungry, you were poor. That was the Tendulkar poverty line, that you needed to consume certain amount of food. Then we moved to what we call the Rangarajan poverty line, which is not just food, so it's not just destitution, it is healthcare, education, conveyance, rental for urban areas. So you see the basket is getting bigger. So now we are talking moderate poverty. It's no longer extreme poverty. And if you just look at the Rangarajan poverty, what do you notice? That in India, nearly 30%, 29.5, 30% households fell below poverty line in 11-12. Do you know what that number is today? It's 3.6%. That has not happened on its own. That's number one. That this is a remarkable decline, unprecedented in human history, and definitely unprecedented from an open, democratic society. We don't know. The numbers in China on an average are very, very remarkable. But what we don't know are how things are distributed there. In India, you do. In India, you have seen state after state, rural after urban. In fact, there's a convergence of rural and urban quality of life and consumption levels. There's a great convergence happening. So, poverty is falling for everyone. You want to break it up across religious groups, because there is always a great deal of interest in the Western media that this is a majoritarian country and it doesn't care for its minority, etc. The data allows you to see what is happening to the welfare and the quality of life of different demographics. So if you look at the poverty, for instance, urban poverty for Muslim households used to be very high, almost 40% 10 years back. Poverty for scheduled tribe used to be nearly 50%. All those numbers are way down. It's around 5 or 6% today. So there is great convergence happening across demographic, whether religious groups, social groups, urban, rural, cross-state. That is what growth is meant to achieve. It's meant to be inclusive. And inclusive growth, therefore, if you see past 2014, we are achieving it in terms of these simple metrics. You know, in terms of actual number of people, what is that number? 302 million people have come out of poverty in India. It's not a small achievement, it's massive. I want to also tell you another thing. When people often compare us with China, they compare the GDP. No, GDP, they are almost 5 times our size, yes. And then when you deflate it by the population, you say the per capita income, well, they are 4.5 times to 5 times as rich as India. But do you know how that GDP is distributed? Private consumption is China. In China is only 1.5 times more than private consumption in India, which means an average Indian's quality of life is just a little lower than the Chinese quality of life today. Which means the additional GDP that is getting generated is with the state and is with corporations. Please appreciate that a free democratic society that you have has meant that the GDP is being enjoyed or is part of your quality of life. It doesn't sit with corporations and the state alone. It's very important for people to understand, because most of you only compare GDP sizes. Some of you will deflate it and look at population numbers, but that does not tell you the truth. All right? In terms of quality of life, the difference is not that vast. And of course, it's largely on account of the fact that we are a democracy, which means the rules are different. We do business very differently from the way Chinese do. Sometimes I hear frustration. Too much democracy in India and things take too much time and so on and so forth. Well, please note, my singular job as an economist is to tell you that there is a trade-off. The trade-off, if you just look at what is happening in terms of your quality of life and how growth is getting distributed, the trade-off comes largely on account of the fact that we are a democratic society. There is no such a thing as a free lunch. It's very important for the youngsters to understand, right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about the whole concept around Atmanirbharta. It's not just a meaningless phrase. It's meant to tell us that there are certain strategic sectors where we do not want to be over-reliant on external forces, right? Food is the first. And for the elders in the room, they will remember just 50 years back, when we wanted certain amount of food because we were struck in a certain hardship, we were denied. But within 50 years, what has happened to food production index of India? It's almost 130, which means of the 100 units that you consume, you produce 130. India today does not have a shortage of food. We have abundance of food. Yes, the quality and nature of that food is shifting. We are all eating less of carbohydrates, including the poorest Indians. Even the poorest Indians now are eating less of carbs and they are eating more of richer, better micronutrients. So if you look at fresh fruits, more than 90% Indians are eating fresh fruits. Why do I care about this? Because it's not like food grains that the government can give. It's also not something which is available throughout the country and throughout the year, which means usually, to even the youngsters in the room, there used to be a lot of seasonality before in consumption of fruits and vegetables. Today, not anymore. Why is that? Because your back-end logistic, the supply chain, the cold storages, the infrastructure development has meant that basic food and perishable items are available throughout the country. There is no district today in India when it comes to food. You would term it as a remote district. Food is available to Indians. So food security is something we can say we have achieved, right? And we are well on our path. Second, energy security. This helps you also appreciate why we took the stance that we do. We continue to take stance that we do. Because amongst the biggest economies in the world, we are the most exposed to imports as far as energy is concerned. 33% of our energy consumed is imported. That's too high, right? The Americans have brought it down after discovery of shale. Now they are in single digits. The Chinese too have now stabilized it around 13-14%. We are around 33%, which means we depend a great deal on external markets for energy needs. Please appreciate this is singularly driving our entire focus towards renewables, why we need to continue to push for renewables. And second, we are not going to grow the way the past OECD markets have grown. That would be terribly irresponsible. It's extremely polluting. It's just not sustainable. So yes, we do hear a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to policy prescriptions, but the reality is that we have to make a commitment, and we have. India is the poorest country amongst the G20. But if you look at the commitments in terms of climate that we have made and the energy transition we have made, no other nation before us has made these kind of responsible commitments and achieved them. We continue to achieve them. So the whole push for life, lifestyle for environment, etc., is really meant to tell you that India's growth is not going to mimic the growth of OECD nations before us. We are going to have our own path because we do have our own objectives. That takes me to the final issue that I'm extremely keen to discuss, but more importantly, we have to work towards improving, is this demographic dividend part of the story. Nations are built by people, not just by capital. And people will mean we need healthy, skilled, educated population. Yes, we are young. That window is there and it's open, and we are trying our best to take complete advantage of that. But the reality is that India's fertility rate has been crashing in unprecedented ways. Today, our fertility rate is well below replacement. In fact, it's below 2. It's around 1.97. This is too fast for a nation which has to grow. We need a large, capable, working population for the next several decades. So for the working population to shrink relative to an elderly population, we have 120 million people above the age of 60. So yes, we are a young nation, but we also have a rapidly increasing elderly share. So to improve and get to a high quality of life, we will need a large working age population. But with this declining fertility and falling rather rapidly, what are the policy prescriptions? Do you know that urban India has had below replacement fertility rate for the last 25 years? So while many people have started talking about fertility today, the reality is, and this is the dynamism of Indian economy, that unless you look at the data and you look at it in granular way, you don't really know what's happening. Most people just think they know India. You need to look at the data in highly granular way. So if urban India, the young women do not want to have children, that is a crisis. And you know what then pushes us further? That during the pandemic, a rather dismal
statistics emerged from the rich G7 nations that this is the first time in human history that such a large number of elderly population have died alone without a family member around. That shakes you up because it tells you that's not the kind of growth we want. Eventually, progress and development has to be defined in a way that we should aspire for. And that's not going to be, therefore, our growth model. China today, the biggest fear they have is they have already grown old before becoming rich. There is no clamor for migration into China, unlike Europe. As Amitabh mentioned, Japan is already quite old. In fact, in Japan today, they are trying to measure labor and age. Age for you and me is a very simple variable. It tells you how old you are. So it's a chronological measure. Not in Japan. In Japan, the conversations are moving to, yes, there is a chronological age, which means I'm 50 years old, but there is a biological age, which means I'm as productive as a 40-year-old. You see, the creativity in terms of thinking and narratives and trying to overcome an almost certain fate on account of not being sensitive to what is happening to fertility is very, very critical for any country. So what does that tell you, therefore? First, our policies have to become, and I must assure you, they are becoming more family-friendly. Because our girls are getting more, I see more women here. The girls are getting more educated than ever. They're working very hard. They outdo the boys not just in 10th and 12th. They outdo them in most undergrad courses as well. But after all that, when it's time to get into the labor market, what happens? You're a traditional society. We still want children. But your traditional family structure doesn't exist anymore. So when traditional family structures are breaking down because you're urbanizing at a pace unprecedented, you're also nuclearizing at a stage, a rate which is unprecedented. So that joint family where grandparents could take care of children and hence young women could go out and work, that luxury, unfortunately, doesn't exist. So if that happens and you want the young women to fulfill their aspiration, there is a role for policy. The government has to step in ways that it can. Therefore, you are seeing a push for all kinds of benefits. In fact, we are making a case for why families have to file taxes as a joint unit. There have to be benefits to taking care of elderly and the young. Children are extremely labor intensive, but so are elders. Do you know an average working age woman in India spends 4 hours every day taking care of someone? So now as an economist, what's the value that they are bringing to the GDP? That's a very easy fix for me to do. I have estimated, and that number is 17%. Yes, it's very large. But in society, what does it mean? That this large amount of value which these women are creating on account of care is in the household. And because it is inside the household, there's no